When I was growing up, I was praised for being smart. It created, I think, this like fixed mindset in that like I didn't want to do anything that made me feel dumb. I didn't want to do anything that made me feel like less than or made me question my identity even. Whereas they actually found that with kids, if you praise their hard work or their strategy, they are actually more willing to take on challenges and better themselves. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of BULGOGI Pod. It's a little warm right now. I'm sweating. I hope you don't see it on camera. But what has been up? Your girl is moving to Korea. I'm moving in a couple weeks, and I will be there till December. And so, get ready for the content. And other than that, we are talking about a growth mindset today because I listened to a podcast. Actually, it was a TED Talk that changed my life. Oh, it's the Stanford alumni. It's not an actual TED Talk. Stanford alumni Carol Dweck, Dweck, and it's called Developing a Growth Mindset. And so, essentially, there are two types of mindsets. I'm sure there are more, but this is how she defines it, is there is a growth and a fixed mindset. And this develops when kids are young. And so you can kind of think of it as kids with a growth mindset are willing to take on new challenges and kind of push themselves and kind of test the limits. Whereas kids with fixed mindsets are a little bit more scared and afraid to fail. And so they tend to not challenge themselves or not do things that make them feel dumb. And it's so interesting because this obviously develops when kids are younger, right? Like minds are malleable, and you have to be very careful with actually how you praise. And so what I mean by this is when I was growing up, I was praised for being smart. And I'm very thankful to my parents that they told me that I was smart and that I was capable and all of that, because I think it made me who I am. And I don't fault my parents for this at all. All parents do the best that they can, and I know that my parents love me and I love them so much. And so they don't necessarily know how certain things will impact me, like, you know, down the line. Like that's a thing, right? Like, our parents didn't know what they were doing. Our parents were doing the best that they can under the circumstances that they were in. And so my parents praised me for being smart. And what that actually led to was me taking on smart as an identity, right? I was the smart kid. Literally was top of class, whatever, I was annoying. And later I actually moved, and I was no longer the smartest kid. Obviously I was still up there, but I wasn't the smartest by far. And it was a complete shock to my identity, because up until that point it was like, oh, I'm Hannah, I'm good at school, I thrive in academics, and I'm good at math, and science is my favorite subject. It was all things to do with school and academia. And when I had moved, it was like, oh, I can no longer identify with those things, because I kind of felt like an imposter. And it actually created this sense of oh, I don't want to try things that make me feel stupid. I don't want to do things that I'm not good at, because who wants to do things that they're not good at? But in order to improve and challenge yourself and actually gain more intelligence or, more skills or whatever it may be, you have to challenge yourself. And so it created, I think, this fixed mindset in that I didn't want to do anything that made me feel dumb. I didn't want to do anything that made me feel less than or made me question my identity even, right? Whereas they actually found that with kids, if you praise them, to praise their hard work or their strategy or their effort or things that point to being able to improve, they are actually more willing to take on challenges and better themselves. They don't think that things are so black and white. They are able to kind of work through their stuff. And so I literally heard this and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I have a fixed mindset. And it was like a complete shock to me because I always felt like, oh, like I'm smart. Why do I feel stuck sometimes? Like, why do I feel like stagnant and like I can't like move and I can't like do things that I know I should be doing or that I kind of want to be doing? And it's because of this. It's because I think like I grew up, right? Even teachers would tell me like, oh, you're smart. And so it was the only thing that I thought I was. And so in these later years, it's a lot of unlearning. It's a lot of reteaching yourself certain lessons. And so one of the big lessons I've taught myself is to try to like take on new challenges and see them as opportunities to grow. Because in addition to how you praise, it is also about teaching people that when you challenge yourself or when something is difficult, that is actually an opportunity to get better and to grow. And that's how you get smarter and all of that, right? And so literally the other day, had to renew my passport. Don't understand why that was so difficult. Don't understand at all why that was so difficult. And I felt dumb. Don't worry. I felt dumb all the way through. I was like, I don't understand what's going on, but let's just hope I'm doing this correctly. And guess what? I feel a little smarter now after renewing my passport. Also, P.S., you can do it online now. Didn't know that. I did it through mail. And so even though I felt dumb through the entire process, I'm like, okay, I'm getting better little by little. And even like I have big memories of this. When I was in 5th grade, you know when you like do a little snake in class and read out loud? Like each person takes 2 sentences or whatever it may be. I remember, you know how like you get a little nervous to like read out loud in class because it's like, oh, what if I like mispronounce something or whatever it may be? And so you count ahead like, oh, this is going to be my sentence and this is going to be my other sentence. And so I was doing that and I was literally like, da da da, crooked, ba da 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 da. And actually the kid in front of me got that sentence and everyone started laughing when he said crooked. And I was literally so confused and it was crooked. And so now I know how to pronounce that word. And I'm thankful that I didn't get the embarrassment that the kid in front of me did. Shout out Alex. You can guess the last name. But it's still something I like learned and grew from. Which is like such a small example, but I will never forget that. This is actually the first time I'm admitting this. I never admitted that to anyone. And so, yeah, I'm committed to this growth mindset. And I think this actually all also relates to having control in our lives. I think that for a lot of my 20s, I have felt out of control. Our 20s have been, the 20s have been kind of crazy and rough and just a little bit of a shit show, right? Because we don't know who we are at the beginning of our 20s. At least for me, I didn't know how to make decisions for myself at the beginning of my 20s because my parents coached me through a lot of it. And I'm thankful that they did because I probably would have don't know who I would be or who I am. But I had to learn at a certain point to make decisions for myself because I realized that my parents weren't always going to be there to make decisions for me. And ultimately, if it's my life, I need to be making the decisions so that if things go badly, I have no one else to blame but myself, right? It's so easy to turn to the people closest to us and blame them for things that we feel like we didn't get a say in, right? Like, if a parent forces you to go to a certain college and you didn't actually want to go to that college and you have a great time, then everything is great. But let's say you don't have a great time. It automatically, yeah, you would blame your parents. And so I think that it's really important to take control and responsibility for our actions and the consequences of our actions, right? Oftentimes we don't really think about the fact that we are the person to blame almost, or we are the person who was responsible for making maybe a not so great decision or a decision that we need to learn from, right? And so I think that taking responsibility is huge. Ultimately, you are in control at the end of the day, right? Like, of course there are things out of your control and we have to let those things be. And we can't like get anxious or get freaked out about it, right? Or I guess it's not we can't, but rather maybe we shouldn't, right? Because I used to run an anxious mess. I was so incredibly anxious. I think that was the number one driver of everything. And I think honestly, a lot of this led back to the fixed mindset, right? It was like, oh, if I'm not in control, if I'm not the smartest, if I'm not perfect, I shouldn't be doing this. I can't be doing this. And looking back, it's like, no, like those were all opportunities to learn and grow and get better. But I didn't take on the opportunities because I was scared of failure. Like, if you ask me what drives me more, like pain or pleasure, fear or pleasure, it's absolutely fear. Your girl is scared. I am a scared person because it is scary to put yourself out there. It is scary to speak your mind. It is scary to feel rejected. But I'm realizing more and more lately that there have probably been so many opportunities that I have missed out on because I was scared. And how lame is that? Like, literally, whether that be jobs or internships, like I didn't want to act a fool or whatever it may be. And so I was just like in my head, but at the end of the day, nobody is thinking about you as much as you are thinking about you. Like, truly, everyone is thinking about themselves more than anything else. And so what makes you think that you were important enough that they would be concerned with you? Obviously, they'll think about you a little bit, but like the mindset that like everyone around you was thinking about that one bad thing that you said or that one embarrassing moment or whatever it may be is because we can only view things from our own perspective, right? Like, it is hard to like shift perspectives. And so I think this this just has impacted like every single aspect of my life. And so I guess this is like me calling out myself and telling myself that like I need to take responsibility. Like, I need to woman up and accept the consequences of my actions. I'm the person that put myself in this position today. I'm the person I am today because of everything that I have done or did not do. And so yeah, it's time to just like take responsibility. And so moving forward, I'm going to continue to teach myself that I need to praise effort and I need to stop being so hard on myself. And then in others, I need to also understand that they probably need praise too, but make sure to praise carefully. And, you know, all of this to say that we are capable of growth and change. People are themselves like to the core, right? But you also have to give them the opportunities to learn and grow, right? People are capable of change. They are more than capable of change if they desire so. And so, yeah, just be a nice, flexible human being. And I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode, and I will catch you guys in the next one.